Lost in translation in stand-up comedy show. You're watching a stand-up show with subtitles. The audience absolutely losing it. Laughing, snorting, some even gasping for air. The comic drops a line and the place erupts. But you're sitting there blankly and reading along. The subtitles add up, sure. The sentence is clear, but the joke? It slips right past. No punch, no pause, no chuckle, just nothing. This is what it looks like when comedy doesn't make the leap. It's more common than you think. Humor is delicate. It leans on puns, slang, timing, inside jokes, and cultural shorthand. That split-second beat, that strange delivery, a twist that spins a boring line into a zinger. Try dragging all that through another language, and most times, the funny just falls flat. That's where we're headed today, into the world of translation theory. Those academic ideas about how languages trade meaning, and how translators try, against all odds, to carry laughter from one culture to another. Translation theory and humor. To understand why the Gabriel Iglesias Siri joke is funny and why it might fail in another language, we have to look at a few big ideas in translation theory. First, there is Skopos theory, developed by Hans Vermeer. It says that translation should always be guided by purpose. The Skopos, if your goal is to inform, you translate differently than if your goal is to entertain. And if your goal is to make people laugh, then you don't just translate word, you translate laugh. That means the translator has creative freedom. They can change the sentence, rewrite the setup, or even invent a new punchline if it fits the purpose. Second, there is equivalence theory, introduced by Nida. He talks about dynamics equivalence, the idea that the translation doesn't need to be word for word. It needs to recreate the same emotional reaction. If a sentence in English makes people laugh, the translated version should make people laugh too, even if the words are totally different. And finally, there is domestication versus foreignization, a concept by Lawrence Venuti. When you translate something, you have two choices. You can keep it culturally foreign, preserving the original references, the weirdness, the unfamiliar context, or you can domesticate it, rewrite the reference, the jokes, and the tone, to feel more familiar to the new audience. Neither is better or worse, but when it comes to humor, domestication often wins, because unfamiliar jokes are rarely funny.
Let's see how this all plays out with a real joke. Gabriel Iglesias and Siri. In one of his stand-up specials, Gabriel Iglesias tells a joke that goes like this.
The phone, he's like, ding ding, Siri, tell me something dirty. And the phone takes everything literal, so it's like, ding, would you like me to locate a car wash? You know?
Why is it funny? Because the word dirty has a double meaning in English. Dirty can mean sexually explicit, naughty, but it also means literally unclean like dirt. And the punchline works because Siri misunderstands. She takes the sentence literally instead of responding with something sexual. She suggests a car wash. It's innocent, it's absurd, it's perfectly delivered, and it only works because of that double meaning. But what happens when you try to translate that joke into another language? Why the joke fails in literal translation. In many other languages, the word dirty doesn't have that same double meaning. In Spanish, for example, sucio means dirty as in unclean, but it's not usually used for something sexually suggestive. In Japanese, there's a different set of words for unclean versus inappropriate. Same for French, same for German. So, if you just translate the sentence literally, you might get a weird result. It might sound confusing, or Siri's response might not make any sense. The wordplay disappears. The twist is gone. the joke falls flat, the audience doesn't laugh. Not because they don't have a sense of humor, but because the joke wasn't built for their language. How translators save the joke. This is where dynamic equivalence comes in. The translator doesn't just try to find the same words. They try to find the same joke, a joke that uses surprise, misunderstanding, innocent clashing with suggestion. So maybe the line becomes something like, Siri, tell me a naughty secret. And Siri responds, would you like me to locate a priest? It's not the same sentence, but it hits the same beats. It sets up slightly inappropriate request and then flips it with a pure, literal misunderstanding. It's innocent, it's absurd, and people laugh. That's dynamic equivalence. That's Skopos theory. That's domestication. It's not just about what the words means, but it's about what they do. And in this case, they make people laugh.
Why translators are more than language machines? Translators are not just language converters. They are creative storytellers. They have to understand not just grammar and vocabulary, but humor, pacing, culture, and human psychology. When they translate a joke like the Gabriel Iglesias Siri bit, they are doing way more than just swapping English for Spanish or Japanese or French. They are rewriting comedy for a new stage. They are preserving tone, timing, voice, and surprise. They are finding new punchlines that feel old, and when they do it right, the audience does not even realize anything was changed. They just laugh, and that is the point. When translation works, it does not feel like translation. It just feels like the joke was made for you.
Humor is messy, cultural, chaotic, and deeply human. It resists being neatly packaged and moved across borders. But good translators don't try to preserve every word. They preserve the laugh. They take the spirit of the joke and breathe it into new life. So, next time you laugh at a dubbed comedy or read a subtitle that actually makes you giggle, just remember, someone worked really hard to make that happen. Someone translated not just a sentence, but a smile. And that's why translation isn't just a science, it's an art.